I think we're live. Hello, hello. Welcome
Hi.
back to another Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast. My name is Lindsay Dollinger, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet my friend Samantha Stern. So, Samantha, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. I've literally been looking forward to this. I feel like you've been on my calendar for like 2 months or like 3 months for this to be booked.
It feels
We
like
could,
it, like between my schedule and your schedule, we're
yeah.
all so busy, but I was like, I have to get on.
I know, I know. Well, I'm so glad that you are here today. So, Samantha, tell my audience a little bit about you, your journey, how you started to do what you do, all the things, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So my name is Samantha Stern, and I opened my own business, Empower Kids Therapy. I am an occupational therapist, and I treat pediatrics. So it's solely children who I end up focusing on in my business. And I live in Orlando, Florida, which is amazing.
How could that not be amazing? So, I guess I should have prefaced this to let the audience know. Samantha and I met each other at Lou Mangello's
Yeah.
Momentum Mastermind weekend. The names I like always
So many
forget
words.
the events. I know. So all the momentums. So this past October, we hit it off. I loved brainstorming with her, and then we've worked together a few times since then. And then we have Samantha saved my you know what on the boardwalk during the Disney marathon.
Yeah. Yep.
She's part of the WDW radio team, and you did was it the 5K that weekend? 10K.
Yeah. So the princess? Yeah.
Wait,
So
this was yes, Princess you
you
did 10K.
princess, I did 10K, and then before that, the only other race that I did was the 5K. March, whatever. They keep on changing it every single
Oh,
year.
okay.
That
Oh,
was
yeah,
my
when
first
it is.
5K.
Gotcha.
But the
Okay.
rest of my friends and family were running
Yeah.
in January when you ran,
Yeah.
and I just so happened to be closer to the end and was like, Lindsay, you coming in? Are you good? Do you need anything? I was like, I have, and I was like, I can see that she's struggling. So here's some Gatorade. Here's a banana.
I was gonna say, I don't even remember what you gave me. It was like a banana. Was it like crackers or something too? Something
Forget what
else.
he had
I
that
feel
morning.
like, yeah.
You're just like, here's all this stuff. You can keep on doing this. You got this. Because I definitely could not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so bad, guys. When I say it was so bad, it was bad. But so Sam texted me and said, like, I have this and this and this. Like, let me know what you need. And I think I just said yes. Like, I was like,
That is
all of
what
it.
happens at marathon. You're like, I can only type 3 letters.
Yes. I'm like, this is all I've got left. Yes. Yes to all the things. So anyway, yes, she saved my ass marathon weekend. So she's the real MVP. But tell us a little bit, how did you decide, or maybe when did you decide? Because you worked for a occupational therapy practice first, right?
Yes.
Before you opened your own. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts with that.
Yeah. So I'll start with first my transition to Florida and how that happened. So I love Disney. It's, it's everywhere. We got it everywhere. And I was living in New York at the time and knew New York was my next step before I wanted to move back down to Florida. So I ended up in 2019, in December, making it here to Florida. And I got a job working for a private company, a private therapy pediatric company here in Orlando. Pandemic hit. Was like, okay, now's not the time to jump off on my own and try to make my own practice. So I worked for and transitioned to another therapy company. And what I was finding all throughout my years as being a practitioner was I didn't like following everybody else's rules. I didn't find that insurance-based care was able to support kids and families the way that they deserve to be treated and the way that I wanted, or the therapist that I wanted to be. So it was always in the back of my mind ever since I graduated, 2013, 2012, that I wanted to open my own practice, but I never had the guts to do it because I have the mindset of I need to learn everything before I do, which we all know is not necessarily the case. But I was working for 2 private pediatric therapy practices down here in Orlando, and I just was like, this is not the right fit. So I did some research, as I do, and started to build my own practice on the back end. So I was working nights and weekends on courses, taking in all the information that I could of figuring out how I best could treat parents and kids so that they could get the support that they needed. So I opened actually Today's Tuesday. On Thursday, it'll be 1 full year since I was fully open and ready to treat clients.
That's so awesome.
So it's been a run roll since
Congratulations.
then. Thank you. It's been a feat, but
Yeah.
I'm doing it, and it's been fantastic.
And do you want to share what you just told me right before we hopped on here?
Yeah. So about a month ago, I became full with all of the clients that I am able to physically, emotionally, mentally handle in my caseload.
Mhm.
And so I now need to figure out how I'm going to hire someone,
Oh my gosh.
which is fantastic. And it's such a great
Yeah.
thing to have. But it's always those next steps that I'm always looking at and trying to figure out how I can do. So yeah, I'm fully full time, which is amazing.
It's so exciting. I'm so excited for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, and you kind of already mentioned it, but kind of like that jumping before you're ready, or
Mm,
how you have been able to get through the everything has to be perfect and lined up before I create action of it. And I know, I mean, that's just human of us, right? Like,
yeah.
especially you are a type, I'm assuming like a type A, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I'm like, I shouldn't assume because that's how I am. But I assume like normally the people that I talk to, like, we like to have all our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you did to kind of get through that?
Mhm. So right in the beginning, I knew here are the things that I want to learn in. I knew I needed to know more about business because I didn't know, so let's back up. So basically I wrote a list of all the things that I already knew. I knew how to be an OT. I knew how to provide parent education. I knew how to treat children. A little bit of finance stuff, but finance, business, I had no idea how to do that. So I wrote a list of all the things or all the aspects about running a business that I didn't necessarily know. And I started to do research on who are the people that I should be talking to, who are the people that I should be reading from. So I made all that list and I started to do that. And what I was finding was when I got all this information, I reached a standpoint where I was like, well, what else do I need to know? And that
Yeah.
was the point where I felt like I was looping, right? Of
Yep.
the fear of maybe I don't know all this information. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not ready. I need to know more information. But I was finding was I was hearing the same things over and over and over again.
Yep.
So I did know the information. I just needed to become confident in myself and just saying,
Mm.
I'm not going to know everything. And what I have also been finding in my business recently is there's no way that I could ever think of every single problem or, occurrence that might arise that I may need a solution for because I
Right.
can't think of the problems. So it's just do as you go in some of these
Yeah.
instances. But I felt at that point that I felt myself looping and knowing and researching the same or getting the answers to the same or similar information was at the point where I said, I just need to open. I just
Yeah.
need to be confident that I've done the work that needs to be done up until this point
Mhm.
and just go for it because I won't be able to know everything until I actually do. Right. I think that's one saying that I heard you say a little while ago is like making sure that doing better is perfect or it's better to do than have it be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it
And
first, make
so,
it perfect later.
yeah, there it is. You got to do in order to
Yeah.
then, make it perfect. So just get out there. And one of the scariest things I think in my practice is it's reliant on clients and reliant
Mhm.
on someone believing in you. And so that was hard of figuring out, are people going to even want to get my services? Are they going to want my type of support? Because my support is a little bit different than, like I said, mentioned before, regular insurance-based care.
Right.
People pay for packages.
Mhm.
And this is something cool that I had found out along the way, but everyone's doing packages everywhere. And so I said, why not healthcare?
Yeah.
So I package services and consults and support in between sessions so that families can get the support that they deserve. They can bill insurance too, but it was a new way to do this type of therapy. And
Yeah.
so I just needed to trust myself that this was the direction I needed to go.
Okay. So you've said a lot, trust, confidence.
Yeah.
So was there at any point, like, because it sounds like you had this kind of like aha moment where you're like, okay, I know that, I know that, I know that. Was there anything where you were like, okay, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this because a lot of women, especially, but I know a lot of my
Mhm.
listeners really struggle with the confidence piece and with the trust piece. So, is there any advice you could give them for ways that they can find that? Maybe even
Mm.
before they have testimonials from clients or was there anything specific that you caught yourself doing, like that self awareness piece? I don't know. That
Yes.
seems a weird
So
question.
no, I think it makes sense. I think it's really hard to trust ourselves in
Mhm.
general of, do I
Yeah.
know all of this information? One of the things that actually helped me was I reached out to other previous clients who I've had in the past, and I
Mhm.
started to bring back memories of all these people who I've supported or who have supported me from other jobs and other careers
Mm.
who wanted my support, and that just validated for myself of, you do know the information and it's
Yeah.
okay to go out there. Another thing that I did that I know it can sometimes be challenging to other people, is I was finding the information that I was getting from, not from a business standpoint, but from my own, specific career of OT, is I was seeing all these people online posting everything that I already knew. So
Mm.
they're offering services to other professionals, and I know that information.
Yeah.
So I was comparing myself to them, not necessarily in a bad way, but in a
Right.
way of, well, I know this information. Why am I not sharing it? And why am I not adding to the population of, like, I know that information, but I may know a little bit more detail and can
Yeah.
provide it in a better way.
Ooh,
So the comparison factor, at least for me,
was helpful.
was helpful in saying, why am I not doing that? They're obviously success from the outside, right? They're obviously
Right.
successful in what they're doing, so I can do it, and I know I can do it better.
Yes. Oh my
So
gosh, yes.
that was
Yeah.
helpful for me, which I know for some individuals
Mhm.
are not, because then they get stuck of thinking that they aren't as good
Yeah.
as others. But it was helpful for me, and then just talking about it with other people. That was another big thing, and I think why we had connected at that conference is I was like, Lindsay,
Mhm.
I need some help. I know you have information you can give me.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to find people who will be in your corner.
Yeah.
Like, I went to a conference just for OTs, and I met two individuals who we talk every day. We're in different situations in our business. One has been open a year longer than I have, and one is very slow to be picking up because her full-time job is taking more
Mhm.
time and more precedence. But we
Yeah.
talk every day about things in the in the occupational therapy profession, things as a business owner, things in our personal life. And so having that support for
Yeah.
all those avenues to validate and problem solve as you go is super important too. And
Oh
then
my gosh, I
helped me
love that.
take the step into saying, like, I can do this.
Yes, yes. That's so much better of an answer than I was even expecting. Like,
Well,
there's so
good.
many no, it's so many pieces of it because I think a lot of times people are like, it's like a one-stop answer, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
these little pieces that you
Yeah.
implemented into your life, your accountability buddies, other people that you can bounce ideas off of, the
Hmm.
validation from and I actually read that in gosh, who knows what book at this point, but I read that in a book when you are trying to find confidence in like a new area in your life to think
Hmm.
back, even in something else that you've done, even if it's unrelated, like you have
Yeah.
succeeded at something. Everyone has succeeded at something. So like you
Yep.
are good at just certain things and how can you kind of transfer those skills and that belief into your new thing?
Yeah.
And I think that's so smart. So, talk to us a little bit about your Instagram page because you have one of the most beautiful Instagram pages of anyone that
Thank
I have
you.
seen. So, did you start that about a year ago when you decided to start,
Yeah.
doing this, or was it before? What did that look like?
So I love social media. I shouldn't love it
Mhm.
as much as I do.
Yeah,
But
same.
I find, like, the quick amount of information that I can get out there,
Mhm.
and share information so that people who maybe can't afford certain services or have access to
Mhm.
certain services can see and get value from what I'm providing,
Yeah.
even if they do or do not have a kid. Like, a lot of the things that I post are also can be tailored to adults. But I funny enough, so I started the Instagram page. I was at this occupational therapy conference where I met these ladies, and they had said in the conference, like, just make the page, get it up, so at least it's semi out there in public. You don't have to
Yeah.
add anybody or anything. So I quickly grabbed my handle for my company name because I was like, I want to grab it. What if someone else does? So
Yeah.
I grabbed
Smart.
it in November of 2022. No, that's a lie.
One.
2021.
Yeah.
And I didn't post in it. I just had it. It was there and
Okay.
was like, okay. And people started adding me. I'm like, I didn't even post anything on there yet. So people started adding me, and then I started actually posting in March or April, like the month and a half before that I really launched out to the public, because I
Mhm.
wanted to slowly start to get some traction in what I was posting
Yeah.
before people started looking at my business online. I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of a presence before I
Yeah.
was saying like, here's me, pay for
Yeah.
services, come get support, right?
Right.
So I started the page, and being that I'm a Disney lover, a small niche that I'm trying to branch out into and going to branch out into the next year or so, is combining my love for children and pediatrics and therapy and Disney. So I started posting videos and posts all about how you can explain the sensory system, which is something that's so complex, through the lens of Disney. So I started making those
Mm.
videos at first, and it just the traction just started. And yeah, I'm gonna go back to returning it. I've done Magic Kingdom, I've done Animal Kingdom, I still got Epcot and Hollywood Studios to do too. But that's in the future works. But I
I love that.
love, love social media, and
Mhm.
making it a way to share information, but also a calming
Yeah.
presence. So I really dove in hard in the beginning
Yeah.
into some of that, which is really cool.
Well,
So I'm
and your
glad you
brand
noticed.
yeah, and your branding is beautiful. Did you do all that on your own? Did you do a branding class? Like, where did that or you just
No, I following other people on
yeah?
Instagram and reading all the blogs and the things that other people are posting out there.
Mhm.
And I saved a lot of pages that were and weren't relative to OT. And I looked at the similarities between them and why I liked them as a
Mhm.
person aesthetically and how they were sharing information. And I actually had a whole
That's
I have
genius.
so many Google Docs, but
Yeah.
Google Docs on like
Uh-huh.
why I liked it, right? This is what I did before I actually fully launched my business. I said, what colors are calming for me? What are going to be colors that are calming for a parent visiting my page who is in overwhelm with their child and looking for answers? Well, this
Yeah.
light blue teal color is going to be great. And let's start using some beiges in there. And so it just kind of snowballed effect on thinking about everything between, font, colors, like how I was going to present information. So yeah, that was all me at first.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love that so much. Well, and I'm working with, some women in my membership right now about branding, and
Mm,
I think that is such a good piece of advice for people is, like, what draws you in? Like,
yeah. Hmm.
and what is going to attract your ideal client to you? Because for a while, and I did this whole like big branding mastermind, and it was super informational, but the colors that this um, coach was pointing me towards were like a dark red, a dark blue, and I was like,
Mm,
that's not that's not my vibe. Like that's
yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
and so I tried it. I did try it for a while. So if you guys look back at my colors like 4 or 5 years ago, there was like a little brief season until I finally like came back a couple weeks later and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do the
I
dark
wanna go
blue.
back and look at it now.
Yeah, it's like a very dark green.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to find something and like share it out and show people like the
There are
evolution.
so many blogs and books all about color theory. I
Yeah.
could dive deep into that because, even right now, there's a ton of TikToks going on around about like, what colors you should be wearing for your skin tone and your hair color.
Mm,
And so diving into color theory is so interesting to me,
yeah.
and how we perceive certain information and in their importance based on their color. And
Yeah.
so, you are searching for bright, bubbly individuals, right?
Yep.
Disney aspect in there. So your font and your color choices need to be different than mine, where I'm looking to ease the
Yep.
mind and
All
calm the
people.
body. To attract those types of parents who are saying, "Oh, this is a calming thing." So
Yeah.
it's subliminal, but it definitely plays
It's
an
there for
impact.
sure. Well, and it's so funny you just said that about Disney because when I showed her like this bright pink and like a teal that my colors have changed just slightly, but when I showed her those, she was like, that's more like a creator vibe, like a Disney vibe. She's like, that's not what you're going for. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It was like before like I brought all the Disney into my branding. So
Yeah.
it's so
Mhm.
funny, like just
Well,
trusting
good.
your
There you
gut.
go.
Yeah. Okay, now your content planning, because you
Yeah.
put out a ton of amazing content. Walk us through how you plan your content. Do you do it weekly, monthly, daily? Do you have stuff
Mm.
like in storage that you pull out? What do you do?
So, as of right now, I have shifted. Social media, despite me loving it, my main priority right now has to be treating children and treating clients. So I've actually exported some of my social media
Oh, cool.
to a social media individual or an
Nice.
individual who manages my social media. We plan it weekly.
Okay.
And I have a massive list.
I
I have
bet.
a
I bet. Yeah.
massive list of all the topics of conversation that I want to have with clients or with individuals on my social media.
Mhm.
So the way that I've planned it is I have a couple really big pillars of information, and under there all the details. And
Gotcha.
so the way that we have chosen to do it is alternate between talking about Disney and sensory, talking
Mhm.
about feeding, talking about parent education, and then my services. Because that was a
Okay.
big piece that I feel like, and the way I was educated was that was a piece that I was missing, was showing and
The
demonstrating like
selling.
what I can do.
Yeah.
And that didn't come to the forefront in the beginning when I was building my social media. Instead, it
Mhm.
was just here's all this information.
Yep.
Here, I look, I know what I'm talking about versus like here's then how I can help you.
Yep.
So that's really big. But back then, the way that I was doing it was trying to alternate and do a lot more reels
Mhm.
than posts. Instagram and social media is always constantly changing. And
Right.
so I was trying to fit the trend, and the trend wasn't
Yep.
working for me. So
Mhm.
instead, I shifted and said it's easier for me to put out static posts or carousel posts that are related to certain topics from that. So this massive list that I have also has related blogs that I've already written. Uh, there's about 20 of
Naturally.
them. Yeah, so there's about 20 of them. And so what we're trying to do is get into this routine and pattern of one reel a week and every other week a blog post. And then whatever is in that post is going to get, whatever's in that blog post is going to get 2 social media posts uh, during that week so that we can direct
Perfect.
people more to it.
How long have you been following that plan?
2 months now.
Okay. Have you
So
noticed any change in your insights?
yeah, so actually a lot of change. I'm having I forget the actual phrasing for it, but what used to happen is when I was making the reels, I was gaining a lot of followers
Mhm.
ish. Or I was gaining more followers from what I noticed, but they weren't necessarily people who I needed
Your
to actually
ideal.
follow me, right? They weren't
Yeah.
the ideal client. They were a lot of people from other countries who, yes, I
Okay.
can support them virtually, but
Right.
realistically, that's not my clientele. So what I have noticed is since we've shifted, I've been getting a lot more other businesses and individuals here in the Florida region. I've gotten a lot
Really?
from Miami recently, which is
Oh,
nice because now I'm at least niched more to
yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
We've had a lot more traction in people sharing the posts between each other, where before I would just get likes from my family, and that was kind
Mhm.
of all all that I was getting initially.
Yeah.
So we've definitely branched out in that. So at least I know and we know that other people are sharing the posts so that they know that they're sharing information with their friends. So that's been nice. And we've seen that shift, which is
That's
exactly what I
really
want.
great. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. You're primarily on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I found myself initially too, even in the beginning, getting into all the different types of social media was really challenging for me. I
Mhm.
knew that I needed blogs to help support families so that I had a place to direct them to information.
So
But
smart.
then deciding between Facebook and Instagram, it was a little bit more challenging for me to decide and or be able to do both. What I'm
Mhm.
finding now is the opposite of what I initially thought. So I was getting a couple clients actually from Instagram every month. They were booking calls through Instagram to see about my services. And
Mhm.
then the conversion rate from that, like if I had 10 calls, it was like 30%. Three people would sign on for services
That's great.
or be want to transition, which is amazing. What I'm finding now is a lot more is happening in these family Facebook groups who are sharing information. So someone will post on there and say, hey, I'm looking for services in Orlando. And someone else who maybe I don't even know
Yeah.
that has been
Yep.
happening recently have said, oh, I've heard about Empower Kids Therapy. So this word of mouth situation is
Yes.
booming. And I'm getting a lot more people from Facebook groups. So it's like now
Mm.
we need to shift and try to reach and gain
A
more
little bit.
individuals into Facebook. So it's
Yeah.
been interesting to watch the trend happening, but
Yep.
it's amazing at the same
Yeah,
time
that's so
because
awesome.
you can use it as a tool versus a hindrance, and so that's,
And I love that
my
you Oh, so sorry, go on.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just love that you have reached to the point that you're okay with outsourcing that, but yet you guys have very much come up with a plan that is still
Mhm.
you. Because I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people when they're working with social media managers is they just completely outsource it. And, even if you have a really great social media manager, they need some sort of content to pull from.
Mhm.
Unless they've been, like, your best friend forever and, like, can basically you know what I mean? But they're
Yeah.
not you, and so having those blog posts that you can pull from is not only genius social media-wise, but great for, like you said, a resource to your clients.
Mhm. Another thing which I think is kind of cool too, which I didn't mention before, is there is an individual in my field who I met at this occupational therapy conference who she is an OT and she did treat clients, but now she has shifted her business to be specifically for OT and healthcare professionals, so like OT, PT, speech therapists. And
Mhm.
she does and did so much education on branding and getting your message out there and shifting the phrasing that you're using on your website to more professional and
Mhm.
more specifically niche down language on your website. So I actually worked with her to help transition my own thoughts and ideas into I had this she created this really awesome big PDF of information for me to constantly reuse and rephrase and shift, but it has allowed also my social media person to understand and know my brand and my business better
Yeah,
than I would have even been able to convey to them. So
that's
that
awesome.
has also helped too in the whole process. There were certain things that knew that I needed ahead of time because again, I didn't know anything about finance at first. I didn't know anything about
Mm.
marketing. And so I went to at least professionals that I know in my field and said, I followed them first and watched what
Yeah.
they were doing and then said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And they were like, "Yeah, we actually have a service that you can, help support." And so then I needed to decide like what was going to push me further along in the
Mhm.
beginning to help. And it was setting up my systems, getting my financials so that I had a baseline understanding like my client progression and what their process is going to be when I sign them on, but also being able
Mhm.
to share and have the language for sharing my information more effectively on
Yeah.
everything in marketing materials, on my website, in my social media. So that has significantly helped me to help,
Yeah.
branch off to make sure that I'm saying the same thing to everybody.
I feel like your next, passive quote unquote passive project is like that, like creating a course on how to go out on your
Oh
own
my
as an
goodness.
occupational therapist because you've done it. Like you
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and I know with all your Google Sheets and all your Google stuff that you kept track of all the steps, you know what I mean? Like you probably already have a checklist made, let's be
I
real.
do. Yeah, I do. It
Yeah.
is funny because I have shared it. It's really
Yeah,
just funny that you said that
see?
because I have shared it with my those two friends that I was talking about
Yeah.
on just like how to figure out finances and if I want to hire someone, what am I paying
Yeah.
them? What are they bringing in for me? Like how many hours do they have to have? Like it's very specifically niche down to this types of service and package program that I'm using,
Yeah.
but it's super effective to have these spreadsheets for me at least to have it broken down. Um,
Well, and I've
yeah,
heard
and
that, like, occupational therapists, lawyers, people who can open their own practices, that a lot of reason they don't succeed is because of the things that you're saying, because they don't know
mhm,
they don't even know what they don't know, right? And I love that you have gone out and you have figured all the stuff out, and you have done that by soliciting help in all the area. You're like, "This is not my area of expertise. I'm going
yep.
to find them and get it figured out and rope it in." And I think that's such an important message for everyone to hear because the information is out there. You just have to find the right people or the right resources to, like, pull it from and start using it because you can do it.
And yep, and exactly what you said, that goes back to the first thing that I mentioned was like I had a list of things that I knew I was really good at and things that I had no idea about. And then I said,
Yeah.
okay, these things that I really don't know a lot of information about in terms of business and how to run things successfully. How do I get information and who's the best person to get information from? So,
Mhm.
I started doing initial research. Then, it was like, okay, you need this book by this person, you need this book by this person. And
Mhm.
then what I ended up doing is this just my personality is I took that information, I boiled it down and said, how does this work for me?
Mm,
And that was how I really created the system that I have now, which is also ever changing, but at least I
right.
had a baseline to work off of. Like you
Yeah.
said, my spreadsheets, like I have written down
Mhm.
because the way my business works is people pay upfront and monthly, or they pay quarterly. So how do I track that? What systems do I use
Right.
to make sure and guarantee are that I know how much money that I am bringing in for my company, because that's how I'm sustaining myself in January. What does that look like in February? And what about in May? How many clients do I need? And so it was really helpful for me to create this system from books that I read in order
Yeah.
to help me see the picture. And so that's just, stuff that I've learned over time in with other people having businesses too. So I
Yeah.
think that, you know, that's just the trajectory that I created for myself. But I also had to say, at what point do I stop creating systems and what point do I actually
Mm,
do? So
mm. Yeah, and
the
I
wo-
I can fall into the creating the systems all day long, so I understand.
Yeah. Well, systems are fun for us people, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
checklist and you have a concrete thing, right? You're working on this, you're working on this. Like my website. This is a really good example. I noticed when I was doing my website, I was trying to be that perfectionist and I was working, but it was busy work, right? I'm not with
Yeah.
clients. I'm not going out and marketing myself. And I was finding myself in this loop of adjusting my website. The website did not need to be adjusted as much as I did. I was spending 2.5 weeks. I mean, I'd never built a website before, so I did need to spend a little time on it, but I was spending 2.5 weeks building a website,
Yep.
legitimately, Monday through
Yep.
Sunday, like bright early in the morning until, the sun was down and I was like, "Oh no, I haven't drank water in 8 hours." Like those are the things that I
Yeah,
find myself getting stuck on. And yes, a website is important, but not as important as I was
it's
labeling it
not that
labeling
long.
it.
Right.
So the self-reflection that I needed to have and the awareness that I have about myself was, oh, I'm stuck in a loop. How do I get
Yep.
out? Like
Yep.
this website is just gonna have to launch.
Yeah.
And it's gone through edits since then. Not a lot, but
Yeah.
enough for
It
me to
will.
recognize that it's okay to do that. So
That's the cool thing about websites is I feel like they're constantly evolving. Like, it's never gonna be like, you're not gonna just put it up there and not touch it, most likely.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
maybe, but most likely not. Okay, one more question because you are
Sure.
also planning your Disney wedding, which I think is so, so fun. How do you do all the things? Because you have a full client load now. Like, what are some tips for you have for the woman listening, who is maybe even like you a year ago when you were juggling
Mm.
the full-time job still plus building up your own thing? How did you make that work?
Yeah. So that's a really good question because at some moments I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Or some moments my fiance is like, Sam, the sun has gone down. You don't need to sit
Get
in
out
front of
of
the
your cave.
computer. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. I have, this second bedroom that I'm in. It just is the computer and I face a wall and I could face this wall for 20 plus hours and still be okay because I'm so motivated, but it's
Mhm.
not healthy. So,
Yeah,
one of the things that actually has helped me that I'm finding that I stay much more on track in compartmentalizing myself is on my calendar that I use. It has client appoint. I've mixed it, and this maybe doesn't work for other people, but I needed something in one place. I've tried, and I'm usually a paper pencil person, but what ends up happening is then it doesn't look pretty, and then I have to erase it and do it
mm,
again. And so I've noticed that about myself. So I've shifted. So everything is in one spot. So I don't have multiple calendars to look at. But what I do is I actually have a whiteboard and I divide it into 4 sections. I have things that need to be done this week, things that need to be done this month, things that need to be done this
mm.
quarter, and future ideas. And so
Ooh,
what I do is Sunday or sometimes Monday morning, I look at that list and say, where can I shift things? Where can I move things? What things can I start to work on? Because
yeah,
what I was finding was I was putting record course on my weekly to do. And then it sits there because I've only done a part of it. I haven't fully finished it. And
yeah,
then mentally, that's hard on me because
mm,
I haven't done anything all week, and I'm putting quotes
right,
around that, which is so not true.
right,
So, what I do is I move and shift things around based on what the priorities are and what things need to be then broken down. So, recording, because I am in the future building, currently actually building courses for families and parents in both sensory integration and feeding, because I'm only one person and I need to be able to reach a lot more people, or people who need more support. So I'm working on building these courses. And what I've done is I've broken it down into sections. So now I have a list of, here are all the sections I need to record. And so then I can pull that from my quarterly to-do list and put it on my monthly to-do list or my weekly to-do list. So from there, once I've moved it around on my whiteboard, then I put it on my calendar. So I will look at my chunks of time. I'm a very chunk of time person. I can't just start a project and do it for 30 minutes and then be done. I need 45 minutes to an hour to like get my mind into that project, and then I can shift to other things. So I look at my entire calendar and I look for the largest chunks of time, and I see what on my to-do list needs that largest chunks of time, and then I put it in the calendar.
Smart.
I am a person who, like, when it's on the calendar, I will do it. So what I was finding is when I started this system is I was starting things at like 7 o'clock in the morning and then ending things at like 8 o'clock at night. And then that wasn't healthy for me. So I've blocked out my personal time now in my calendar for my morning routine that doesn't have to do with my business, and my nightly routine. And then I build and piece things in from there based on my to-do list. That has worked amazingly for me, because I can say that last week I didn't do that. And not that I putzed around and did nothing. I have a client base that does a lot, but I did things that maybe weren't the top priority. So that has been super helpful for me. And I know and can track back to when I was building my business that was also helpful for me when I did it then. Subconsciously, I was doing the same system until I had to self-reflect and be like, I have too many clients now that need my time and attention in these appointments to shift my brain to, now I'm a therapist and now I'm a business builder and a CEO, for me to not have this system in place. So that's helped me. But it took some time to get there, right? It's like, it took time to get there. And it also took a lot of self-reflection for me to realize that, me using my paper pencil method, which I really do love, is not efficient. So I do the same thing with planning wedding too, is wedding has to stay either at night or on the weekends, unless it's a call that is required during the day for someone or something, because I can go down that rabbit hole real fast if I open social media and start scrolling myself, and then I'm stuck on wedding talk, and then I'm there for hours and thinking of all the inspiration that I need to write down during my work day. I don't have time to do that.
Well, I love that. Yeah. And saving some of that stuff for later, like stopping that temptation to scroll and being like, no, that's my like fun thing that I get to do later. Right now I'm doing XYZ. I think that's an important lesson for everyone. And I feel like a big theme throughout all of this has been self-awareness, which was a huge thing for me in my business too, when I was really able to start honing in on that and using that to my advantage.
And it helps in so many ways. I am very a self-aware person, and I'm a very reflective person, and I have a lot going on in my brain at a lot of different times, but it's super helpful for me as a therapist too, to help support families or find those families who I know that I will mesh and pair well with, and that I can support, because self-reflection, I know that I'm good at XYZ things. I'm good at getting down on the kids level. I'm really good at problem solving. I'm really good at thinking of innovation or innovative ways to help a child. And I'm good at that trust and that bond with that child and with that parent. So I have good self-reflection for that as a therapist. And I also then have good self-reflection as the CEO to say, here are things that I can do, and here are things that I really shouldn't at this time, because I know that I can go down a rabbit hole real fast.
Yeah.
So
and if someone else can help you do those things, why not? Why not take advantage of that? Yeah. Okay, Sam. So tell everyone, where can they find you? And I will be sure to link all this in the show notes as well. And what are some things maybe that you have coming up that we can know about as well and share with our friends?
Yeah, no, that would be so awesome. So, my company name is Empower Kids Therapy, and I am on Instagram. So it is empower.kids.therapy. We do have a Facebook page as well. Like I said, we kind of push most of information from Instagram over there. So if you really want to know what's going on, Instagram's the way to go. If you are curious about occupational therapy and what that means and how maybe it can help your child in whatever area you are listening in, you feel free to check out my website too. It is www.empowerkidstherapy.com. And I'm more than happy to talk with anybody who maybe has a child who maybe needs a little bit of support. I do provide support and can provide support virtually, which is awesome. I know it's so much different than being in person with an individual. But if someone is looking for some type of support or education and knowing what to do next with their child in their area, I'm always there to help support. I do have a couple of courses that I'm building, like I alluded to. One is in feeding therapy. So learning and just the basic strategies first and understanding how to introduce kids to new foods or try to problem solve a kid who is a picky eater, because picky eating, although we've labeled like the kid diet as being picky eating, it's not typical. It really shouldn't be. There are so many ways that you can help expand your kid's diet. So that's one of them. Another thing is understanding your child a little bit better in terms of their sensory integration or their sensory processing. We know that a lot of children coming out of the pandemic are having a lot more sensitivities to a lot of these areas than other generations. And so helping parents really understand their kids a little bit better. That's kind of those two courses that I'm building. And then the one that I'm really excited about, and the one that Lindsay, you have pushed me to do a little bit more in to try to figure out a little bit better, is obviously I love Disney. And coming to Disney is super overwhelming and super stressful as a parent. And then if you're a parent who has a child who has alternative needs or needs a little bit more support or is neurodivergent, figuring out how to access the parks best for them and you and your entire family is the direction that I'm going to go. So I'm going to help support and build some ways on how to help parents come down here from an occupational therapist perspective. So I'm really excited about that one.
I love that so much.
It's combining two of my loves together, which is fantastic. And my body gets super excited when I talk about it. But I need to be in a really good spot within my business to help support that end of it, which is amazing. But we're getting there. This summer I have a layout, so at least I have a Google Doc.
Yes. That's going to be Sam's quote, like her slogan. I have a Google Doc for that.
I have a Google Doc. It is true. I have a Google Doc for this podcast with all the ideas that I had in the beginning. So, it's all work.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I don't know if anyone's ever told me that. I feel so honored.
I was like, I need to make sure that I share with everybody all this important information. Because
was there anything that we did not go over that you wanted to share today?
Nope. We actually
cover
did
it
all. And I didn't even look at it. I'm looking at it now. But it's amazing. The other thing that I kind of alluded to and mentioned is just like trusting yourself and trusting the process. That was the only thing that I had put else on here. Because it's true.
I feel like you talked about at the beginning when you were talking about that transition to how you became confident enough to go full time, like just start your own thing. That trusting yourself.
Sometimes you just gotta trust it, and as long as you've made a plan that works for you and have that awareness of yourself, then there are some hard points, but otherwise it's smooth sailing and it's fun. It should be fun, right? Like
it should be fun.
You built a business, like that is amazing. As a woman, especially now, like to have and build your own business, like there's so much freedom in it. And so everyone should be proud of that.
Well, I am so proud of you, and I am so excited for all the things coming down the loop for you. I definitely want an affiliate link for your Disney course when you come out, because I will be sharing it with everyone.
Yes. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate your time. And listeners, when you are either watching this video style, if you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or whether you're listening to this in the podcast, please screenshot it, tag us both on social media. We would love to know your biggest takeaway, and be sure to connect and follow Sam in all the places.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay.